Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the news today edition of 17th of December, where we pick up all important news for the day and explain it to you from UPSC examination perspective. So let's look at the important news which we're going to cover today. First is Lok Sabha has passed Sabka, Bima, Sabki, Raksha Amendment of Insurance Laws Bill 2025. The US has questioned the World Trade Organization's role as primary forum for resolving global trade disputes. Then, Viksit Bharat G-Ram G bill has been introduced in the Lok Sabha. The Sustainable Harnessing and Advancement of Nuclear Energy for Transforming India SHANTI bill has again been introduced in Lok Sabha. And United Nations General Assembly has adopted a global declaration on non-communicable diseases and mental health. We are also going to cover place in news, that is Jordan, along with quick updates for the day. So the very first news is Lok Sabha has passed a bill which is called as Sabka, Bima, Sabki, Raksha Amendment of Insurance Laws Bill 2025. We understand how important insurance is there for our country as far as health is as parameter is concerned. So this topic is important both for your prelims as well as for your mains examinations. Prelims, you can ask, there could be some questions around the topic of some factual pieces of information which you're going to cover in the news, followed by in mains examination, how in health sector, how let's say insurance penetration is there as far as paper number 2 health is concerned. You can use all of those things in your answer writing. So first is this bill is basically Sabka Bima Sabki Raksha bill, which is going to reform the insurance sector of the country, and it is going to basically amend the existing insurance laws of the country, that is Insurance Act of 1938. We have Life Insurance Corporation Act of 1956 and IRDAI Act of 1999. Why it is very important? Because you understand that insurance is a very important component as far as different parameters of health is concerned, right? So this is where we need to reform the existing insurance laws of our country, right, and make it more friendly with respect to how people will be getting insurance coverage in the country. So again, it is going to accelerate the growth and development of insurance sector of the company. That's a broad idea, protecting the policy holders as well as so that the policy or the insurance reaches most of the people of the country, right? So what exactly are the features of this particular bill? So as of now in insurance sector, FDI limit was capped to 74%. So now this cap has been increased from 74 to 100%. So it means a foreign company can fully own any insurance company in the country. But there is a condition, that the condition is they have to have a paid up equity capital. What is paid up equity capital? For example, a company A has, let's say, 100 shares. Like if a foreign company is buying an Indian company 100 shares, so sometimes they are telling that again, we are planning to buy 100 shares. Under this paid up equity capital means that a foreign company need to buy all these 100 shares of Indian insurance company by paying all amount of money to the company, then only they can have 100% control in that particular company. That's the meaning of paid up equity capital. And why it is important? Because if more companies are there, more foreign investment will be there, it will lead to more capital, more competition and technology and insurance penetration in the country. That is the first important component. Second is, you understand this many times, the common problem with respect to insurance sector is that people are not aware about the benefits of policy. Sometimes there are some clauses in the policy which we don't read, which we don't understand, and we buy the policy. But once we go and claim that particular policy, then the problem starts. So this is where this bill is also talking about creation of a fund named as Policy Holders Education and Protection Fund, which is going to make the people aware about certain policies, that again protecting the interest of policy holders, educate people about insurance products and their rights, and the fund will be administered by Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority of India. It is going to help common people And in fact, many times, many companies mis-sell their insurance products. So all of this fund is going to create, in let's say, policy holders awareness towards the policy which they are buying. Again, a very important step towards this particular direction. Then let's see what all things have been done apart from this too. Third is the net owned fund requirement for reinsurance is lowered. What are reinsurers? So many times there are some companies or insurance companies also need to be insured. For example, let's say there is a very big disaster in the country and there is a lot of pressure on the insurance company. So these insurance company also get themselves insured. So basically reinsurers are companies that insure these insurance companies. So for this, the limit was that if any foreign company is going to come to India and set up as a reinsurer company, the amount of money which this company need to have was 5,000 crore, which was very high. So this limit has been reduced to 1,000 crores only. So what will happen with this? So it will lead to what? Lower entry barriers for these reinsurance companies. It is also going to make sure that more reinsurance companies are entering into the Indian market and better risk sharing and stability will be there in the insurance sector. Then we have this enhancement power of IRDI. So many times to understand, we have a lot of laws and policies, but the regulation and implementation is a problem. So for that particular purpose, what we have done is IRDAI, that is Insurance Regulatory Development Authority of India, will be given as much as power just like SEBI. SEBI is a institution which is, let's say, regulating the Indian capital markets. So this Indian insurance market will be regulated by this IRDI. The powers of regulation of IRDI has been enhanced. So it can recover now wrongful gains from insurance companies. And it is important. Why? Because strong regulation improves policy holder protection and trust in this insurance companies. Then one more thing has been done, that all of you know about the Life Insurance Corporation of India, LIC, which is India's government big life insurance company. So for them, what has happened, LIC has been given that a power that again, whenever they wanted to set up new offices, they need to take up approval from the government. But as per this bill, greater operational autonomy has been given to Life Insurance Corporation of India, that they can set up new zonal offices and they can do so without any government prior approval. So what is going to be let's say a result of this, it is going to make sure that again LIC is working in a more flexible manner. It is going to be more competitive and, let's say, efficient in its functioning as a government life insurance company. So a very important development as far as the insurance sector of the country is concerned, people's awareness regarding this insurance policies is concerned. So a very important step, a very important bill. Let's say how this bill is going to be taken up in terms of passage of the bill, right? So again, that is something, a development which we're going to look forward as and when this bill is going to be passed by the parliament. The next important news is the US has questioned the World Trade Organization. What is World Trade Organization? It is a body which is going to decide that if international trade is happening, what are the rules and regulations? This is basically a referee. WTO is a referee which is deciding the rules and regulations for international trade, right? And if any dispute is there with respect to international trade, then WTO is the one who is resolving such disputes. So for the functioning of this World Trade Organization, US government has raised a concern that again the WTO role, which has a primary role in terms of resolving global trade disputes, they have questioned their mandate. So what exactly has made the US government question WTO? Let's look at. So again, a very important topic as far as prelims based questions are concerned. Many a factual piece of information around WTO, the MFN status, the subsidies, all of those are the important areas. Of course, you're going to read them as a traditional static topic of a syllabus. As far as GS paper number 3 is concerned, so the changing role of WTO as far as the changing nature of international trade are concerned, this is something, a very important question which could be framed as in your GS paper number 3 mains examination. So what exactly has happened over here? US government is telling that again it has blamed World Trade Organization for making something called as global imbalances. Somewhere it has hint towards China. US government has hint towards China. That in China you understand there are many, let's say, government state sponsored things, many subsidies are being provided. There are many non-market practices which are being done by some countries hinting towards China, which is leading to global imbalance in trade. So some countries are manufacturing a lot, which is creating some kind of a global imbalance. And again, the WTO, instead of fixing them, there is no action taken up by World Trade Organization. So some countries are producing too much and exporting them at a very cheap cost, which is distorting the international trade as per the US government. And what they have told, they have criticized the most favored nation principle of WTO. What is most favored nation principle? Example, let's say you are going to school and you have got a tiffin. You are sharing your tiffin with one of your friends. So the MFN status basically tells if you are sharing that tiffin with one of your friends, you are obligated to share same amount of tiffin with all of your friends in the class, right? So that is where again a very layman example, just to make you understand in a more clear manner. Let's say if any company is under this most favored nation status, so all, let's say India is a company, so any amount of tariff which is India is going to impose on any country, it is going to impose same amount of tariff for all WTO member countries. That is the most favored nation status. So countries must charge same tariff to all WTO members or for a particular product. US government is saying, so many companies have their own personalized way of a trade. So this is something the MFN status is stopping countries from optimizing their individual trade relationships and again making a more customized trade relations with some countries. This is coming as a barrier where again trade deals based on trust, fairness and strategic concerns could not be made due to this MFN's principle. So that is something which US government has pointed out. These are the prominent two, let's say, statements or two areas under which US feels WTO is not, let's say, functioning as a trade dispute settlement institution, right? So let's look at what are the other things. So as far as this has talk about that what challenges this WTO as an institution is facing as of now. Number one is the regulatory lag. So again, WTO rules are framed a very long time back, and there has been a lot of development taken place with respect to international trade, right? There is the emergence of new kind of technologies. There has been a, let's say, change in the geopolitical landscape. So there has been economic security concern, right? There are supply chain resilience concern. There are digital trade governance concern. There are climate related trade measures taken up by different countries. Example is the carbon border adjustment mechanism of European Union, right? So all of these parameters are not accommodated in the WTO rules. So basically the idea is the rules or the regulatory rules which are being framed by WTO are outdated and they need to be updated to the changing nature of international trade. Then is growing imbalances. Again, taking an example of China, where again excess amount of production is being done by some countries and that is leading to cheap export, right? And again distorting the international market. So, and some countries, of course, they're following non-market policies leading to overcapacity and over concentration of production. Example, China, where an excess production creates unfair competition and this creates dependencies and vulnerabilities on other countries, right? So this is something which is one of the two issues. Then what are others are there? The third is the dispute settlement crisis. So as far as international dispute resolution is concerned, WTO is the institution which is settling any international disputes. But again, the problem here is that WTO's appellate body, which is the highest court which is settling such disputes, The seat is vacant by because US as a country has been blocking the appointment of a body in the WTO's appellate jurisdiction body, right? So this is where new members, so dispute cannot be finally resolved. That is a problem. That again, dispute resolution mechanism is not functional. Why? Because the member is present over there, and US is blocking the entry of this whole appellate tribunal or body. Then we have geopolitical fragmentation. A lot of time you understand geopolitical landscape is changing. The US government, the whole the Russia-Ukraine war, all of these has made a lot of changes in the geopolitical landscape, right? And again, many nowadays people are talking about what we call as economic nationalism, and trade wars are happening specifically between US and China. So countries are taking more on a protectionist measures which are outside the WTO rules. And then we have consensus deadlock. So there are presently, I think, 164 countries which are there in WTO. So any matter which is being passed by WTO, it tells for it to get passed, it need to have approval of all the member countries of WTO, which is making it very difficult to pass any kind of a regulation or rule by WTO. And Doha agreement there has been 20 plus years for this Doha development round, and it has not been implemented because of this consensus deadlock, where again all member countries have to ratify that particular, let's say, resolution or a bill, right? So countries are now moving towards plurilateral agreements among smaller groups, wherein they are coming on a smaller groups and making agreements for their trade. So these are the prominent reasons or the issues which WTO as an organization is facing. Very important for an examination. You can use them in your answers. Then what exactly is the matter, and why does it matter? Because WTO is a very important institution. It is making sure that the global trade is happening in a fair manner, right? And there is no big country who is deciding what would happen in a major, let's say, at international trade level. So if WTO as an institution, if its mandate is declining, it will have a lot of repercussions at a global trade level as well, right? So if WTO is weakening as an institution, it is going to create the global trade. It is becoming more fragmented. Every country is following their own rules and regulations. Again, the global imbalance will going to be created. Then powerful countries may set rules for the world rather than as an institution or on a consensus basis. And then smaller and developing countries may lose some kind of protection which are being provided to developing countries, least developed countries by WTO as far as global trade is concerned, right? So this is why it is very important that again we need to have, or we need to revive this WTO as an institution and keep it updated as per the new changing norms in international trade and the geopolitical scenario. Very important topic for your examination. The next topic is, we have again passed a bill, Viksit Bharat G-Gram G bill, which has been introduced in Lok Sabha. What exactly is G-Gram and G bill? So Viksit Bharat Guarantee for Rozgar and Ajivika Mission. All of you know about MG Narega Act, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, which is giving 100 days of guaranteed employment to people living in the rural areas, right? So this MG Narega is going to be replaced with this particular bill which has been introduced in Lok Sabha. The bill is called as Viksit Bharat Guarantee for Rozgar and Ajivika Mission Gramin G bill, which is going to be introduced in Lok Sabha. So again, so the aim is to provide more rural employment, create better rural assets, and ensure planned village development. So that is again a step towards rural development of the country, right? So again, let's discuss how exactly this bill is trying to ensure more rural employment, better rural assets, and greater rural development or village development. So this bill talks about that again, employment guarantee under the MG Narega, 100 days of guaranteed employment was being given. So this bill is talking about that we are going to provide 125 days of employment per year for every rural household, right? But there is an exception that there are some exceptional situations, because in rural areas there are situations, there are times where again agricultural laborers are required. So for that exception has been given, that it is being given autonomy to the respective state governments, that they can suspend this scheme for a period of up to 60 days during sowing and harvesting seasons, in order to ensure that farm labor is available for agriculture and not diverted to public work. Clear? So that is something, 125 days. And again, the nature of labor job will be, of course, unskilled job, right? And that is something which this bill is talking about. Then it talks about that again, if people are employed, if people are given employment for 125 days, so what we have planned, how we are going to use this employment, where these people will be deployed, what kind of assets we are going to create. So they are talking about, we are linking it to what, rural development as well. So they are talking that these people will be used to create durable asset, for example, water security ponds, right? Core rural infrastructure, example, roads, public facilities, livelihood related infrastructure, assets that support income generation, and special works for extreme weather events like floods, drought, and cyclones, which are hitting and impacting the rural areas the most, right? So this is something the bill talks about. It also talks about that again, planning architecture, right? So gram panchayats, the whole idea of a grassroots level democracy. So gram panchayats will prepare Viksit gram panchayat plan. So every gram panchayat is going to create a Viksit gram panchayat plan, and this plan will be integrated to the PM Gati Shakti scheme, which is talking about what, infrastructure development around this PM Gati scheme is there. So linking gram panchayat plans or village gram panchayat plans and integrating it with the PM Gati Shakti scheme, which is talking about infrastructure development of the country. So these plans will be pulled through Viksit Bharat National Rural Infrastructure Stack. So again, there will be a full stack of this plan which will be integrated. All the gram panchayats plan, let's say planned, will be pooled at a common stack, and then this is going to help national level rural infrastructure planning. So again, this is how the planning architecture of this particular bill is being concerned. Then panchayats will be graded also, right? So understand, one shoe size fit all approach is not there. We are talking about the ideas of competitive cooperative federalism. So in this manner also, every panchayat will be graded on the basis of the development. If some panchayats are less developed as compared to other panchayats, so for less developed panchayats, more funds will be allocated. That is this bill talking about. So this is aiming to reduce regional disparities, right? Then what all things have happened apart from these things? There is institutional oversight. So again, for monitoring of this whole program, right? So there will be creation of institutions as well. So one institution will be Central and State Gramin Rozgar Guarantee Council. So they are going to monitor, they are going to review and advise on the implementation of this 125 days guaranteed working, and again all the points what we have discussed. And there will be national and state steering committees which are going to give recommendations, financial allocations to the program, interministerial convergence and strategic direction to the program. So these two bodies or two institutions will be created for the oversight of this entire program, and the process is going to be more transparent and monitoring, because we understand that again the whole emergence of RTI, you saw the genesis of that, how Mazdoor Kisan Sangathan in this whole Rajasthan region took up as a parameter of social audit, and this corruption was being found out. So in this program, to make it more transparent, we have used digitalization as a platform, right? So strong push for digitalization, biometric authentication will be there, AI enabled analytics will be done, social audit will be again done by Gram Sabha as usual to the earlier one, and grievance redressal mechanism at block and district levels will be created, so that again people can go and complain and get their grievances resolved at a block and district level. How about the funding? how about we are going to fund this entire program? So this is going to be a centrally sponsored scheme. So earlier what MG Narega was, so whatever wages was being given under this MG Narega was completely given by central government, right? So this was that again until now the central government was providing the entire cost of wages, and it was also providing 3/4 of the material cost for the infrastructure development in the particular state and the administrative costs as well. Under the new program, this is going to be made a centrally sponsored scheme wherein there will be, let's say, funds have to be given by the states as well. So again, the similar pattern for what we follow for all centrally sponsored schemes for northeastern states, for Himalayan states, and for union territories of JNK, right? We are going to have a fund distribution of 90:10. 90% funds will be given by central government and 10% funds by state government. In case of all other states and UTs with legislature, the 60:40 ratio is going to be maintained, and 100% central funding will be given for all union territories which are there without any legislature. Earlier, under MG Narega, for let's say a period of time where again 100 days of guaranteed employment was be given. So let's say if a rural person who is willing to work is not getting 100 days of guaranteed employment, then again state government were giving what we call as unemployment, let's say cost, right? So the state governments will continue to pay the entire unemployment allowance and compensation as per the current MG Narega. Apart from that, states are also going to provide a share of the funding of the scheme in this particular format. This has been a major change around the funding mechanisms of this particular scheme. So very important segment, a very important bill. Let's see how it is going to taken up by the parliament, how the bill is going to be discussed, what all changes are going to be made, right? So very important. Let's see how it's going to develop in the coming future. We are going to get an update regarding that as well. The next one is we have come up with sustainable harnessing and advancement of nuclear energy for transforming India, SHANTI Bill of 2025, which is again introduced. So this bill talks basically about that again, this is introduced in Lok Sabha, right? And it is going to replace the older bills which are Atomic Energy Act of 1962 and the Civil Liability Nuclear Damage Act of 2010. So these are the two laws as far as the nuclear energy in India is concerned. So this bill is going to replace these two old laws. It was required because understand that again renewable energy is the need of the hour because we are going to fight climate change. So for that we require renewable energy. But the problem with renewable energy as far as energy sector of India is concerned, that again, we are relying on solar energy, we are relying on wind energy, and these solar and wind energy as renewable sources are dependent on how good our area is receiving the sunlight, how good there is a wind circulation that particular area. So these are the determinants which are not guaranteeing 100% this renewable energy supply around the year. For that, we need India is needing something called as base load power, so that we are going to get a round the year supply of clean renewable energy. This is where we are talking about nuclear energy as the emerging area. So until now, government is the one who is completely controlling the nuclear energy production in the country, right? So for this idea to India to becoming more dependent and more reliant on this nuclear energy, this bill is proposing, because the current two bills are completely favoring the whole idea of 100% control of government in the nuclear energy sector. So it is allowing only government control, and has a very strict liability rules, right? If any company is, let's say in a nuclear plant, if any major or minor accident is happening, the liability cost is being borne by the people who have invested in that particular nuclear power plant. This is also being changed in this particular bill. So this is something we are going to discuss in the bill. So all the Shanti bill is going to let's say fix all the problems around the nuclear energy production of the country. So let's look at what this bill talks about. Number one, that again, one more thing, the whole idea of around the nuclear energy, as I discussed, we are relying on nuclear energy production. So for that, India is planning that again, instead of setting up a big nuclear plant, we can set up small nuclear plants, which are called as SMRs, small modular reactors, right? So this is how many of the developed countries are following this model of nuclear plants, where again, instead of building one giant nuclear plant, we are building many small nuclear units. So again, cost of course will be less. They are more safer and they're easier to install. So many countries are now betting on this whole idea of small modular reactors instead of maybe for the whole idea of nuclear energy production. So that is the need of the hour. What this bill talks about? This bill talks about that opening of nuclear sector to non-governmental entities as well. So as of now, government has a complete control over nuclear energy production. This bill is proposing let's collaborate with private sector as well with respect to nuclear energy production in the country, and joint venture will be there. So again, with this, what would happen? Private sector comes with a lot of investment capital, technology and efficiency. So this is going to reshape the entire nuclear energy production plan of the country. Then, with respect to identify liability for nuclear damage. So earlier, many companies were reluctant to invest in nuclear technology. Why? Because of liability. Let's say if anything or any accident or any nuclear damage is happening, the cost of that nuclear damage was borne by the companies who have invested, who have given, let's say, some kind of products to that nuclear power plant. So again, the liability cost was very high, which was limiting less investment in that particular sector altogether. So what change has been brought up? If a nuclear accident is happening, right? So there was initially a let's say one slab thing, that again flat 15,000 crores, 1,500 crore cap was there under Civil Nuclear Liability Act of 2010, right? So 2020, sorry. So for large reactors, it was there. So what is happening? That again, there has been a gradation based upon the amount of investment what you have done. There will be gradation, and the liability is ranging from 100 crores to 3,000 crores. Earlier, it was a flat 1,500 crores. So now it is being graded from 100 to 300 crores based upon your liability in that particular nuclear accident. So again, and that is again depending upon the capacity of that particular reactor, right? So bigger reactors are going to be paying high. They have a high liability. Smaller reactors are going to have small liability, which was initially a flat cap was there. So central government will bear the liability beyond the operator's cap. So again, so there are some operators who are operating this nuclear power plant as well. So sometimes if the liability is more than that, central government is planning that again they may create a nuclear liability fund. So beyond operators cost, if funds are going to be given, that will be borne by central government, which is going to be funded through this creation of nuclear liability fund, which this bill has proposed. No fault liability has been retained. Operator is liable even without any negligence. Let's say a nuclear operator is operating a plant, right? Without, let's say, the operator have no role in the nuclear accident. In spite of that, the operator has to pay a liability towards that accident. This rule has been retained. So no fault liability has retained, and insurance requirement has been continuing for operators. So any people who are getting affected, victims will get compensation quickly without any proving fault, right? That has been the major changes with respect to liability parameter. Then we have this operational operators right to recourse removed, right? So under the previous 2010 act, I think 2020 has told, it is 2010 only, right? Operators could recover money from suppliers of defective equipment, parties causing deliberate damage. For example, let's say if you have bought a computer at your home and you have been using the computers for, let's say, last 10 years, just assume, and let's say someday your CPU of the computer bursts, right? Now you are telling that again the motherboard company who has made, for whose motherboard is being used in that CPU, is going to pay for that particular damage. So that is something happening at this current level, that if any component or any, let's say, damage or any major accident is happening, the even a small, let's say, product, right, on whose fault the accident is happening, it is going to pay huge amount of liability, right? So this thing has been reduced, and this was, let's say, discouraging investment in the nuclear energy sector of India, where again investors were very much afraid that if something is happening after 10-50 years, we will be liable to pay for any kind of accident happening. So this was something limiting foreign investment in the nuclear energy sector. So this bill has changed that particular thing. So SHANTI bill has removed this right of recourse. This reassures that suppliers and foreign investors are who feared unlimited legal risk is now getting some kind of a relief with respect to this. Then there has been a territorial scope of compensation has expanded. Let's say compensation for any nuclear accident, if it is happening in any foreign territories, it will also going to be covered. If damage is caused by an accident in India, that is also going to be covered. It is going to be subject to specified conditions under the particular act. So again, it is making India compliant with international nuclear liability norms. So these following changes have been observed as per the new thing, as per the law. So very important segment. Then there has been creation of Atomic Energy Regulatory Board. So this board was already there, but it was coming under an executive control. So now a statutory under this particular bill, this body is going to be made a statutory body, right? So again, more accountability will be ensured around the body of Atomic Energy Regulatory Board. So this is where it is going to ensure that safe use of radiation and nuclear energy is being there. So it was completely under the executive control. Then again, we are going to have Atomic Energy Redressal Advisory Council. So this council is going to be let's say hearing appeals against decisions of central government and this board, and any further appeal will be given to appellate tribunal for electricity. So it is adding transparency and accountability in the nuclear regulation parameter of India, right? So very important development, very important bill around the topic of nuclear energy sector. Why it is important for the country like India? क्यों हमें ज़रूरत है? Let's discuss few of the things. It is important because India needs non-stop electricity. We are a developing country. We need electricity for development, right? But again, we also need to fight climate change, right? So nuclear energy is going to ensure that again, we are having a continuous supply of power, number one. It is going to reduce our dependence on coal-based energy production, which is again going to help us to fight climate change. The whole idea of clean energy, because nuclear energy is one of the cleanest sources of energy. India wants, because wants stronger bargaining power in talks with the US, because US has pushed very long for nuclear cooperation with India. But again, the kind of laws which we had, the Atomic Act and the Civil Nuclear Liability Act, these laws were non-favorable for investment in India around the nuclear energy sector. So with this change, by changing the liability laws, India is becoming a more attractive partner in nuclear energy cooperation, and India wants nuclear manufacturing ecosystem. We have discussed, we are having small nuclear modular reactors. This is the kind of plan which we want for India. So again, a very important bill. Let's see how this will be, if this bill is going to be passed by the parliament. A major development around the idea of climate change, around the idea of clean energy, around the ideas of energy security of the country will be there. So very important bill. Let's see how this development is going to happen in the parliament. The next topic is United Nations General Assembly has adopted a global declaration on non-communicable diseases and mental health for the very first time. So what has happened over here? So a global declaration again around all UN countries has been there, and for the very first time they have talked about nuclear non-communicable diseases and mental health together for the very first time, and they have adopted this entire thing in the 80th UN United Nations General Assembly and sets clear target for 2030. So by the next 5 years, how we are going to see certain things they have asked about that again 150 million fewer tobacco users we are expecting in the next 5 years, 150 million more people with controlled BP or hypertension, 150 million more people with access to mental health care, right? Then at a system level, the process targets are reduction by 80% or greater than 80% countries will policy, legislative, fiscal and regulatory measures, greater than 80% primary health centers with affordable WHO recommended essential medicines and technologies, greater than 60% countries with financial protection, mental health services. So around this whole non-communicable diseases and mental health, this plan has been made for the next 5 years, and what this is some of the targets which we have set for ourselves. So what has happened over here? So earlier around the topic of non-communicable diseases, the focus was mainly on heart disease, diabetes and such kind of diseases, but now we have seen how there are new emerging forms of non-communicable diseases. So we are including oral health as well. We are talking about lungs health because a lot of cases of lung cancers are happening in the country. We are talking about childhood cancer. So these more diseases are officially recognized as public health priorities under this new resolution. Then new determinants are being covered. That again, apart from for the non-communicable diseases, there are different ways in which they are happening. So environmental diseases are also recognized under this new resolution. So again, environmental factors, for example, air pollution, clean cooking, lead exposure, hazardous chemicals, they are also leading to a lot of non-communicable diseases. So health problems are not only about lifestyle, it is also about where and how people are living, which is recognized under this new resolution. Then we have digital health risk. For the very first time, digital health risk are associated in this particular resolution because nowadays mental health is also a very important segment, right? And again, with the growing social media, with the growing digitalization, mental health is also being affected, right? So the modern risks are officially recognized. For example, harm from social media, excessive screen time, misinformation and disinformation. So again, all of this are related to mental health issues which are being recognized. Then we have stronger regulation, right? So for better management of non-communicable diseases, we are going to have a very strict or tight control over tobacco, unhealthy foods, trans fats, e-cigarettes, right? So the focus, of course, is on prevention, right? Not just the treatment. And then we have whole of government and whole of society approach. Ki health is not only a particular government problem or a ministry problem, it is something which has to be taken up as a problem for everyone, right? So it is going to be a multi-stakeholder approach. So the declaration involves civil society, youth, persons with disabilities, private sectors. Everyone has a role in improving the health outcomes across the world. Then we have clear accountability, right? So the UN Secretary General will report upon on the progress of this resolution which we have planned for the next 5 years, who will provide the support, and countries can now be monitored and questioned on their commitments. So very important development around the non-communicable diseases and mental health for the next 5 years, which we have recognized under this UNGA assembly, the 80th one, right? So very important. Then why this declaration is important? This declaration is important because the non-communicable diseases are taking a lot of life. For example, 18 million people are dying premature deaths due to these non-communicable diseases everywhere, and they are of course long-term diseases caused by genetic, physiological, environmental and behavioral factors. Mental health is affecting 1 billion people at a global level, and both of these factors are driven by common preventable risk factor, example tobacco, unhealthy diets, alcohol, physical inactivity, air pollution, right? So tackling them together is very important. That is why it was there. As far as India is concerned, how and what all schemes are there around non-communicable diseases and mental health? We have Amrit, affordable medicine and reliable implants for treatment of cancer, cardiovascular diseases. We have Eat Right India movement, which is launched by FSSAI, which is promoting healthy eating. We have Fit India movement for encouraging a physically active lifestyle. For mental health, we have National Mental Health Program, access to minimum mental health. We have Telemanas, we have Manodarpan. All of these are the initiatives which are being taken up by India with respect to non-communicable disease management and tackling the idea of mental health problems. So very important topic for an examination. The place in news we're going to cover today is Jordan, right? And the capital, of course, here is Amman. So our honorable Prime Minister is on a visit to Jordan, and we are celebrating 75 years of diplomatic ties with the country. So anniversary year, 75 years, 50 years, 25 years, 100 years, that makes topic more important for the examination. So please locate Jordan in the map. What kind of political features it have? What are the neighboring countries it is having? What kind of borders it is sharing? What are the important sea, straits, bay around the region, right? So Gulf of Aqaba, right? We have Dead Sea around the region, right? Major landforms. So all of these are very important to be studied. So please read all of these parameters. This country is very important as a place in news for your examination. Moving on to the quick updates for the day. So very first news is around the Maitri Research Station, which is going to be converted to Maitri 2, which is of course showing India's presence in Antarctica. So we are replacing Maitri with Maitri 2 by 2032, which is of course a state-of-the-art research station and around the whole region of Antarctica, right? So Maitri is basically, it was a project which was being set up in the year 1988, and again it is of course a gateway to the entire Antarctica region, right? So other projects of India are, let's say, Bharati as a research station we have in Antarctica. Dakshin Gangotri was India's first Antarctic station, which has now been decommissioned. We have Himadri in the Arctic region. So important facts which are very important for your prelims examination. Then we have jumping genes and Greenland bears. A recent study has found that again climate change is happening. Polar bears have to adapt themselves to the changing climate change. So how they have adapted? Scientists have found that in their body they have something called as jumping gene. So what are jumping genes? Because DNA has a particular structure, just like a book, right? So there are different genomes, different sequencing is there. So this jumping gene is a phenomena that if gene is jumped from one genome sequence to other, the body or the adaptability or DNA is going to be changed. That is something which these polar bears are doing, this is how they have been adapting to climate change scenarios which is happening, right? So that is all about this, right? So basically jumping genes are called as transposons, which are very important. They can ask you a question, what are transposons, what are jumping genes? So basically they are mobile genetic elements that move with the genome sequence. Their insertion can change the gene expression, how they behave. They are discovered by Barbara McClintock, and he has got a Nobel Prize for in the year 1983, and it is make up of 45% of human genome, right? So that's the basic idea around the particular topic. Then we have Alzheimer's disease. So again, all of you know about Alzheimer's disease. It is a basic brain disorder that is slowing down the memory or impairs the memory, the thinking, learning and organizing skills. And it is a most common cause of dementia, right? And the cause is, of course, the abnormal buildup of amyloid and tau proteins in the brain. Important topics for your examination. Which two proteins are the cause for Alzheimer disease, right? And symptoms, how do we feel this? Memory loss, confusion, mood swings, agitation, paranomical, or let's say hallucination are the common symptoms. So recently, an INST institutions of Mohali has developed a treatment for or a therapy for Alzheimer disease by use of nanotech based multifunctional therapy. So that is why it is in news, right? The next topic is Aspire scheme of the government, which is being launched by 2015 by MSME industries, micro, small, and medium enterprises. So, of course, the objective is to create livelihood business incubators, which are going to provide employment, right? So, as per the scheme, 100 plus livelihood business incubators are approved nationwide under this Aspire scheme, right? So, they are helping for innovation, skill development, entrepreneurship in the agro-rural sectors. So they are helping the employee with respect to skill development, reskilling of unemployed people, self-employed and wage earners. The benefit includes they are funding under the Aspire scheme. Funding for machinery are being provided to MSME sectors. For government agencies, up 1 crore rupees are being provided. For private MSMEs, 75 lakh rupees support is being provided, and for operational support up to 1 crore for manpower and incubation activities, support is provided under this Aspire scheme, a very important scheme for the examination. Then we have Gulf of Oman. It was in news. Why? Because the Iranian government has seized one of the oil tankers in Gulf of Oman with Indian crew on board. So please locate Gulf of Oman. Where does it have? Oman, Arabian Sea, Persian Gulf, right? So the neighboring countries. So that's how you're going to locate them. That how is Gulf of Oman located in the map of the country, the neighboring areas. It's geostrategic importance. Why? Because it is leading, let's say, linking Arabian Sea to the Strait of Hormuz, which is opening to the Persian Gulf, which is a very critical global oil route, which is India is also using, right? So that's why very important topic. Then we have AH-64E Apache helicopters. So the final helicopters under this US government collaboration have been received by the Indian government. The final batch has been received. So this Apache helicopters, what are their specialities? Again, very important facts for your prelims examination. So they are fully integrated precision striken weapon system with high situational awareness and networked operations capabilities. They have advanced sensors. They are targeting suit, ability to control unmanned aircraft, strong digital connectivity. They have proven airframe with enhanced power, endurance, and maneuverability for tough combat environments. So these are basic specifications. You have to have a very a quick glance over it, right? But again, Apache helicopters, it is in collaboration with the US government. That is an important fact which you need to remember for the examination. Then we have Goldar committee recommendations, how we are calculating GDP using the expenditure method. So there is some change which is proposed, and the committee which is proposing that particular change is this Goldar committee, right? So this Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation has released the second discussion paper on GDP calculation methodology based on Advisory Committee on National Account Statistics, which is called as this Goldar Committee. What they have changed, that they need to change the base year from 2011-12 to 2022 and 23 for national accounts. It is just a proposal. Don't confuse it. We are still using the base year what we are here, right? And with respect to data integration, there has been a lot of changes which the country has observed in last 1 decade. So we need to be updating the databases, post GST data, digital economy indicators, periodic labor force survey data, etc., to better capture structural changes in the economy, digitalization impact, and informal sector activity, which is going to be very helpful for a very effective GDP calculation using the expenditure approach. So again, committee very important for your prelims examination. With this, we come to an end of today's discussion of news today. All important questions which could be framed for the topics which I have discussed will pop up in your screen. Please solve those questions. That's how you will feel confident towards preparation of current affairs for this examination is concerned. Lastly, Vision has come up with a digital current affairs platform. Please go and navigate this website. It is certainly going to help you a lot with respect to your current affairs preparation for this examination. So all the very best and thank you so much.